The show starts in 1 minute.
Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater. And now, on with the show.
Hello and welcome to episode 78 of Saturday Matinee Theater, brought to you by your friends at the Longbox Crusade. We are back in Gotham City. We are in our recording studio, set up in one of the many unused rooms in stately Wayne Manor. I'm your host, Jared Albrecht, the art sale artist, and joining me, as always, is the Robin to my Batman. It is Pat Sampson, a.k.a. DJ Crustados. And how are you feeling today, boy wonder Crustados?
I am feeling good today, Jared. I just want to see if I can get a volunteer. Would one of you four please volunteer for me? I just need you to help me out with something real quick.
I got you, Pat.
Okay, good, because this is really going to work. Oh, yeah, this will really work out, Devin. Okay, I just want you to stand right here on this X, okay, and then I'm going to show you how traps work when I make them. It's going to turn out really great. So just stand right there. Let me pull this lever. Okay. Hold on a second. And it worked. See, that's how you pull a trap.
I was worried you were going to ask for help with Christmas decorations, so I did not volunteer.
Oh, little do you know that's where the Christmas decorations are. So now he's going to have to bring them back up.
He knows that now.
He's back in the Cocker Spaniel pit, going back to the old joke.
Guess somebody fish him out, because I'm going to be checking in with him in a second. But as for now, we got to check in with the laziest Alfred Pennyworth of all time. It's my brother Jason, the Weasel Skull Albrecht. And how are you today, Jason?
Lazy? You're going to call me lazy? Let me tell you, I'm soaking these old bones because I'm driving around these two knuckleheads all day chasing these villains. What does my boss say? He's like, they ain't going to know what hit them. They in for a surprise. He runs up, takes a right cross, and gets laid out like kitchen tile. And what happens? I'm watching Boy Wonder, and I'm wondering, when is that beating going to stop on his head? So I have to grab a chain, and I go Pennyworth, man. I go Pennyworth. I'll tell you what a penny's worth. I'll tell you what a penny will get you. It'll get you an ass whooping. That's what it'll get you.
I saw you with the chain. I also like how Jason's impression of Alfred doing an impression of Batman sounds like Ozzie Davis for some strange reason. But hey, it all came together. Oh, man. You were working the chain, and I saw that, and we'll definitely talk about that. I think Delvin's out of the pit now. So we have with us the incorruptible lawman of the city is Commissioner Delvin the Dark Web Williamson. How do you do today, Commissioner?
Doing okay. Like, do you know how hard it is to get out of a pit? Like stacking all of the Christmas decorations and like just get it and then climbing out while leaving all the decorations in there.
What?
It is tough. I worked up a sweat. Much like women. Like, I don't know if you know this or not, Jared, but women can work too.
Right?
I just figured this. And hold on. What's this photo on the wall? Hey, everybody, we put a man on the moon. Everybody. Check that out. Oh, my God. This is a red letter day. Let me tell you.
Delvin is did a little reference there to the commercial we're going to talk about in just a second. And that is it. Is just the four of us for this episode. Well, not exactly. This is one of the new ones that we're doing where we're inviting in Crusaders Club members to get all the access and to watch as we record. So we're recording this on a Wednesday night, standard recording night. And we've put the link out on the Crusaders Club page, which is patreon.com/Longbox Crusade. And a couple folks are in the chat. So I want to shout out to Jim Meal and, of course, Kathy. They have joined us this evening. And so if you're listening and you're like, wait a minute, I'm a club member. I must have missed that notification. Don't worry. There's going to be plenty more. We're going to do a lot more of these standard recordings live for you guys. Just, trying to give you a little bit more bang for your buck. And we appreciate you Crusaders Club folks. So they may have some comments that we use on the show tonight. Who knows? But we'll get to it. And Pat, you're the guy to tell everybody what the show is all about.
Well, Jared, I am glad you asked, because Saturday Matinee Theater is a retro review show brought to you by the Longbox Crusade, where we'll be taking you back to the past with some potentially overlooked retro awesomeness in the realm of television, movie serials, or films. Basically, if it's vintage and it's kind of forgotten, we're going to dig it up. On this episode, we will continue our dive into 1943's Batman serial. 1943's Batman serial was produced by Rudolph C. Flortho. It starred Lewis Wilson as Batman and Douglas Croft as Robin. So grab your Batarang, fire up the Batmobile, and swing into adventure. But don't forget, that crowbar may come in handy.
Okay, folks, before we hand it over to Delvin for our episode's info, let's take a look, or of course, in this case, a listen to a commercial that would have been playing at the time this episode was recorded back in 1943. This will help us get into the right time frame of mind, if you will, transport us back to the 40s. And for this episode's commercial retro rewind, we have Women at Work.
Utilized, we are still short millions of hands. We must call upon women. All over the United States, women are called upon to leave their homes and take jobs. Among our young unmarried women and among older women whose children are grown, we have a large reserve. They discover that factory work is usually no more difficult than housework. Employers find that women can do many jobs as well as men, some jobs better. Tens of thousands of women are already at work in aircraft. More are being added as fast as they apply. This solves the breadwinning problem for many families whose men are at war. The government's policy is that women should get the same pay that men get for similar work. Where necessary, machinery is adapted for women's use. When a hand drill weighs heavily on feminine muscles, the lazy arm drill is introduced to take off the strain. When married women with small children have to take jobs, everything possible will be done to provide day care for the children.
All right, guys, what did you think of this one? We start with Delvin.
You know, man, I don't know if I can talk about this without being somewhat political. It was a surprisingly progressive commercial, I think, for 1943, you know?
Sure.
It was
Sure.
like, yeah, like, hey, you know, we got, like, I mean, with a little bit of that show, and it was like, yeah, you know, we got this, like, robot arm, you know, just in case your dainty, weak female arm can't lift it like a brawny male arm.
I'm glad you picked
Why
that,
wouldn't
though.
they use that just period? They didn't use that anyway.
Some dude, you know, who just comes back from war and he sees that, he's like, what the? I've been asking for that. You know? But I think that's sort of a fascinating facet of it. In the video or the audio you just heard, they talked about coming up with like new ways to make the work a little easier for a woman who isn't as strong. And I thought, well, that's just good for innovation, period. So yeah,
Yes.
that was
Yes. Yeah. And I like the part they're like, well, hey, we're going to try and make sure that you guys would get, or you gals, excuse me, would get paid as much as the guys, provided that you're doing like the same type of work. And I'm sitting there like, word, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, why aren't we doing this today? So anyway, like, yes, I was surprised at the progressiveness of it, but at the same time, there's still a little bit of that 1940s in it because it's 1940s. And of course, it was all for the war effort because, I mean, that is very, very real. You've got folks that got to make money or them and their kids aren't going to eat. So like women goes to work. And then last thing, They're like, yeah, and we'll do our best to take care of your brats while you're working.
Hey, man, free childcare on site. You got to give it up for it was a decent plan. Like, all these dudes are gone. How do we keep this machine almost literally going?
Mm-hmm.
Good pay, good benefits, make, like we talked about, inventions that make it possible, for these things. There was not a lot of downsides involved in that.
No,
kind of fascinating.
I'll stop talking, let some other folks talk.
Yeah, Pat, you get to talk.
I think Delvin said a lot about it already, coming out with this. It was kind of nice to see just what the offers were there and kind of what it looked like at the time. I know we've done a lot of the Sherlock Holmes radio shows, and so we talk about war bonds, things like that. And this is just another aspect of, war times that you kind of get a glimpse into seeing, and just the progressiveness, the innovation that it has brought and continues to do so. I liked it. I didn't think it was anything bad, but like Delvin said too, it's that early 1943s, they're showing old timey stuff. So interesting, but very good. And I liked it a lot.
And we'll bring our resident, probably most of the four of us, most World War II buffishness person. I just made that up, which is Jason. Looking at it probably through more of a historical lens than any of us. But Jason, your thoughts?
My first thought is I can't believe y'all didn't catch me watching it, because I forgot to watch it in the span of how long it took you to do the intro. But now that I've seen it,
I told you guys in the viewing audience.
There's always one guy, and I'm that guy apparently. But in all seriousness, I agree with everything that you said, and indeed, I've studied some of this in political science and some of my history classes, and you're all absolutely right. It was so necessary for the war effort to keep making these warfighting machines and the equipment and the supplies to keep the troops going and keep the war effort going. And the women were such an integral part of it. I think we all know the poster, the Yes We Can with the right. That sums it up. You touched upon the Feed the Brats, and that's something that's actually getting studied today, because there's a big push to try to get more universal childcare back in the United States. It was such a successful program, just making sure that kids had adequate meals. We now live in a lot of homes where there's two parents that are working full time or nearly full time, and so it's difficult. And so the cost benefit, as they found out during World War II, was, the benefit well outweighed the cost. And so, there's a lot of lessons that people are from that era that people are still studying today. So very interesting commercial, a little bit different than what we've watched so far.
Yeah, it's like the first one where I don't think we could just outright make fun of it. Like, it was just sort of fascinating, and it's like, you'd be amazed at what necessity will do. We're trying to win a war. And so they're making a lot of sacrifices are being made from a lot of different areas. We see the sacrifice of soldiers. We saw the sacrifice of growing your own garden earlier, right? And sacrificing your scrap metals and gas rationing. Well, sacrifice kind of came from businesses as well. Like, okay, I'll invest in this because not only is it going to help keep my business alive during the war, but possibly thrive. And well, they made it. So fascinating.
Yeah, and somewhat funny. I mean, the somewhat funny part of it is, like, you got the businessmen in the boardroom. It's like, we got to hire a woman. Like, it was just the last resort. Like, they just didn't want to do it, but they had to, because
they had like options men were fighting the war. Immigrants, no. Chipmunks,
monkeys.
No.
Penguin. Who put penguins on the board? Flipping that on a different lens too, I can see why they almost need to make this, this was probably a reel that was played in the theater, probably right before some of these Batmans that played, because they knew there was moms bringing their kids to see Batman because dads are away. This is 1943. And through another lens, it's almost like some women probably needed that motivation because all they'd known was home life, and going into a work or industrial thing was frightening, so they kind of needed to see that. It's
true.
just fascinating from all angles, I think. So, hey, we actually did like something serious and interesting on the Saturday Matinee Theater, ladies and gentlemen. Bookmark this episode. Share it with your friends.
I wonder if I was a kid, though, and I saw that. I mean, my thought would be, why is my dad out fighting the war and Batman's chilling in his mansion? You know, but then I'll see Batman fight and I'll be like, oh, that's why.
Oh, yes, you are. He's clearly 4F. Yeah. Oh, goodness. My favorite person to think about watching that commercial is still the guy that worked at the factory. And they're like, we installed this arm to make the job easier. And he's like, what the hell, man? What the? I've been asking for that for 6 years. Anyways, Delvin, let's get back to the show.
Let's do that. Chapter 14 was titled The Executioner Strikes. The release date was October 15th, 1943. The director was Lambert Hillier, with writers Victor McLeod, Leslie Swabacker, and Harry L. Frazier, with guest stars J. Carroll Naish as Dr. Tito Daka and William Austin as Alfred. As a reminder, all 15 episodes are available on YouTube. We highly encourage you to watch this episode before proceeding with this podcast, because not only is it just more fun that way, but Jared is about to give a synopsis about this episode, and then we're going to discuss it. There's some spoilers heading your way, y'all. So if you haven't watched this episode, we recommend you pause here, go check it out on YouTube, and then come back to join our discussion. It's about 15 minutes, y'all. Not too big of a time demand. For those of you who are watching along with us, we love to hear your insights. Don't forget to comment about the show on Twitter using the hashtag #I'mFollowingBatman. Jared.
I'm going to let Christopher Walken do it for me this time. Hashtag follow Batman.
That was excellent, Chris. I hope you're doing well today.
Thank you, Delvin. See, we're going to be friends again.
Absolutely. I cannot afford to have you as an enemy anymore. Pat.
Hashtag I'm following Batman.
That was hard. Do it again.
Hashtag I'm following Batman.
That was better.
Jason.
I'll let Mary Jane take it from here. Hashtag I'm following Batman.
That's perfect. Perfect.
Thanks, baby.
Get your act together.
Yes, you picked a new enemy, Pat. It's on you, tag buddy. Sorry. Before we get too distracted, hashtag I'm following Batman. And with that, let's turn it to Jared for the episode summary.
When we last saw Batman, he was trapped in a pit just outside an entrance to Daka's hideout with knife walls closing in on him. And Linda was being hooked up to the zombification machine by Daka. Some good timing by Robin with a crowbar saves Batman, but Linda, she totally got zombified. And now she's under Daka's control. But as Batman and Robin are zeroing in on Daka and his lair, crafty Daka collapses the tunnel to the entrance that the dynamic duo almost discovered. Batman and Robin square off against some of Daka's goons in the park, and even Alfred gets in on the fisticuffs, and seriously, they actually win the fight. They win the fight.
The hell you say? I don't believe you. I watched it. I still don't.
Barely.
I don't.
Barely.
I'll read it verbatim from my notes here. It says they win the fight with some effort, and they add 2 more captives to the Batcave because that guy Bernie, if you remember him, he's still in there. And then they do nothing with the captives in the Batcave. A letter from Linda baits the dynamic duo into a trap, but Dick and Bruce are well aware that they're being set up, so they proceed with caution. Just enough caution for Batman to be knocked unconscious by one blow from a random henchman and placed into a pine box. The goons drag the unconscious Batman back to Daka's lair, inside said box, and drop it, box and all, into Daka's pit of gators. Okay, gentlemen, it is time to do highs and lows of the penultimate episode. I should have mentioned that earlier. We have one more after this. So for the penultimate episode, we will start with Pat.
So the first couple minutes or 5, I don't know, it's 5 minutes, 4 minutes, whatever. It's just a recap that we saw again of everything. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right. You know, but what I really liked about it was Doc, he gets all these buttons and these switches and gadgets and things like that. He's got to put his magic gloves on, the rubber gloves on, because he doesn't want to touch the buttons without, I don't know, maybe he's afraid he's going to get zapped or something. And then the zombification happens. And I was thinking, because you saw a lot of zombie guys in here, I was thinking, like, this has gone on for several days probably, right? Or more, or longer. So do these zombies, do they eat? Do they drink? Does DACA tell them when to go to the bathroom? I mean, do they just, what happens with that? I don't know.
What do you do, zombie? Zombies do not drink, do not eat, do not make love. What do you do, zombie?
It's a Thunderball reference.
Okay. I probably fell asleep at that part. Anyway, so I don't know what they do.
Strangely enough, Pat, I had that same question. Like, I'll be honest with you, it's childish, but I did have that thought, like the bathroom thought. Because like they had Linda sit in that room for hours, and I was like, does he have to tell her because she's zombified to go to the bathroom? Are they incontinent? Do they just go? And Doc is like, I forgot to tell him.
It's Linda Page.
That's pretty good. You sounded just like him.
To be honest, I had the same thought with the guy that's been tied up in the chair in the Bat Cave.
But that too,
Six days.
So, hey, Bernie.
We've all had the same thought, but from different angles.
Just go in that hole over there, or Bernie.
I don't know. I think he was tied to the chair.
Yeah, well, yeah. So he's tied to the chair in the Bat Cave, and then they just kind of leave. They come and go between two doors. It's like, okay, what's going on there? Crazy thoughts that run through my head when I'm watching this. So
I like to think that's how Batman's getting information out of him. Like he's tied to the chair and he just keeps feeding him like prunes. He's like, you want to give me the information now? If you do, I'll let you go to the bathroom.
See, that would work. That would work for me.
All right, we got to roll into Jason for your round one high or low for the episode.
Man, it's happened so frequently, it's hard to even call it a low. It's a standard, but you kind of touched on it in the summary. My man Batman actually said the words, yeah, I know it's a trap, but we're not going to fall in it. And there's barely time for
He's totally going to fall for it.
The narrator's voice. That's what I was missing. Like the Morgan Freeman. He actually fell for it. Yeah, I mean, and Delvin's right. Like he was like one punch. This guy had all the time in the world. Like he limbered up, he was like doing his rotator cuff exercises. He like measured the distance between him and the skull and whack, knocked that sucker out one shot.
I tell you, I probably shouldn't do this. I know I shouldn't give myself hope, but there's a small part of me that was like, is he doing all this on purpose to get access to Daka's lair?
I was kind of hoping the same thing, to be honest. And if he does, I will retract it on the next episode. I will apologize, and he gets an automatic 5 batarangs from me.
I'll agree with you on that, but deep down inside, I feel like he just got knocked out and put in a box.
Well, it's happened so many times now. That's what I'm saying.
Delvin.
He got knocked the out.
Again.
Like, and again.
He took a better beating from the guys in the park. The
Robin
one guy just
took a better beating. Robin got knocked around a couple times. He's like, no, man, I'm good. Like, Batman took that lick and just like, like nowadays, I think just a few years ago, they had the Batman who laughs. And in the 1943 series, we have the Batman who crumples. Like, he just falls over. You just hit him with a feather. Hashtag not my Batman. That's all I'm saying. Like, if you're gonna be a bat fighter, you gotta at least be tough. You can't be a bat fighter and a wuss. Like, just don't fight. You're rich.
We'll let Delvin compose himself.
All right. My rant aside, I'll say something good. I will end this round on something good. The plot of this serial kept my attention, and that's a good thing. It at least was a straightforward direction in, hey, we think we are at a layer or something. They couldn't quite figure out what it was, which is a testament to Daka and how well he's hidden himself. And DACA very astutely collapsed one entrance and is like, well, there's only one more, and we just simply cannot let them find out about it, which they haven't yet. So that was an interesting plot, at least, where Batman sort of has taken the fight, as it were, to DACA, and now we're going to reach the conclusion of it. So that part was very intriguing.
I will say it was a fast-paced episode, so that is good. Back to you, Pat.
I would agree with that. It was a fast pace, and like Delvin said, it did kind of keep my interest just to see there was some movement forward in this one. It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna, do this and that, and we're not going to get to any conclusion. It got somewhere with it that I want to watch the last episode to see what's going to happen with it. But it's another what the for me. It took this long for someone to realize who's the Batcar.
Yeah, it is fairly obvious. And then they pulled the old switcheroo. He came out as Bruce Wayne. He was like, "What's wrong, fellas?"
Really? And then a couple minutes later, they chase him down, and Alfred just goes right in front of them. Then they come out again, fist cuffing again in the park. So it's like,
and didn't he just say? I mean, he just said that, like, hey, we got to find out if this Bruce Wayne is one of those Batmen.
Yeah.
And then they chase him, and it's like, oh, sorry, Bruce. Sorry, had the wrong car. What you just said.
He was on your suspects list.
You were almost there.
You saw the car. You saw them drive away on it. You were following them, and then some guy else gets out. Come on.
And then the car tracks you down.
Yeah.
And out comes Batman and Robin.
He's like, do you know you and Bruce Wayne have the exact same car?
I mean, I've been duped a lot, but I'm not that dupable.
It's like, and if I look at your jaw closely enough, it's shiny, almost like it's made of glass.
Oh man, I don't know. To be the fight in the park just felt like they were like, we got to put a fight in this somewhere. Just have them roll up all these guys and fight in the park. Anyways, it's Jason's turn to talk.
Well, I'm gonna pick a high because I kind of picked on it coming out of the gate, and there's plenty of highs in here, in my opinion. So I'll give another high to Dr. DACA this time because we get to see him a little perturbed, right? Like he's all talking up about his trap and everything, and like, I'll show you how my perfect traps work, and it's empty. Like he freaks out a little bit. He's like, collapse the tongue. Like, just dump it. Dump it.
This is a bag of bullshit.
So that was kind of cool. I mean, we're getting to see DACA in the last couple of episodes. He's had his cool shook up a little bit, and I've enjoyed seeing him. And again, I think the actor does a really good job of playing a whole range of emotions with DACA. So we've been waxing pretty favorably on the villain here this whole series, and I think that trend continues with this episode.
Mm-hmm. Certainly.
As far as I'm concerned, he's the star of the series.
Yeah. We talked about this a lot. We came with some trepidation about it, like 1940s, white dude playing a Japanese dude is going to be a clown show. He's not a clown show. He is not a clown show. This guy, I'm going to see how it wraps up because he's pretty much stayed one step ahead of Batman the whole time, and that has been pretty cool. You know what else is cool? All the Crusaders Club members that get the benefit of watching us live, they get to hear all the bad words that we use. I completely forgot to tailor myself for that. We're all learning together, folks. All right,
big hairy balls. That wasn't necessary at all.
I just want to say I have not said one swear word tonight, so I just want to go on record.
You've done well, Jason. Delvin, you get the last word in the last round.
I hope that you're right about that Batman plot point, because I hope that he was like, no, you see, I was faking, and like I had a plan, and I'm going to break out of this contraption, and now I know where DACA's lair is. I 100% agree. If that's the plot point, awesome. That's a good ruse, and I'll give like 2 thumbs up on it. Because right now what I was thinking was, to me, it would have been smarter if they would have sent like Robin to kind of do like, the henchman work, and then have Batman come in as the heavy if need be, because what they've led into the penultimate issue or the episode is Robin comes to save the day of Batman. The series is called Batman, y'all. It ain't called Robin. Shouldn't Batman be the main hero on this?
It really depends on who's older.
That's true. That's a good question. Did they flip a coin? And
I'll let you guys know next episode.
That's the thing I'm looking the most forward to, by the way. I haven't looked it up. I haven't Googled it. I want to know how old this mofo is.
Well, Delvin brings up a good point, and I wanted to ask everybody, who's in the box?
Yeah.
I have my thought of who I think is in the box. Who do you guys think is in the box? Is it Batman?
I mean, that's who we think
Who's
is.
in the box?
I'm hoping it's Robin, because then you got a dick in a box.
That was good. In the box. Step one.
Well, you got to open the box. Step two, you got to put Robin in the box. Make DACA open the box. That's
the way you do it.
But that's a good question, Pat, because they brought the box in, like we saw him get knocked out, right? And I think we saw him put him in a box. But from there, it cuts to the goons bringing him in and dropping them in the thing. So what happened?
And you hear somebody go, ah!
Yeah. How'd it go?
Ah!
That's pretty good. Yeah.
We're like, ah!
I don't know who's in the box, but I have a confession. When Linda Page was in the box and it said like mannequin or
wax
mannequin on there, they opened it up. I thought it was a wax mannequin of her that they were going to use to try to trap me.
It was really good, too. Man,
I was like, that's her, man. Look, no wax mannequin moves like that. And then I was like, oh, I'm an idiot.
Jay's got duped.
That's how hardcore DACA is. He's all in. He's got the labeling on these boxes. They got the shipping all done. They bring it in just like, bring the mannequin for the new show to the beginning of the ride, and we'll put it on the ride, and we'll take it to the beginning, to place it all for setup. So the DACA's got an awesome plan.
He does. The only thing that we didn't bring up that I wanted to mention, one of my favorite little moments, was when DACA collapsed the tunnel. And Batman was like, oh, we were so close. He's like, well, in the morning, we'll go check the county architect's office or whatever it was. And I was like, I like the thought process, but I don't like your lack of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Sense of urgency.
You don't have no sense of urgency.
There's the motivation here.
And he's like, well, we'll check that out tomorrow. What time do they open?
Where do you want to go for breakfast? If they're open.
Linda's missing, but he's like, we'll check it in the morning. We'll see what's out there.
They open at 8. Let's get there at 9:30. We got to get a good night's rest.
Yeah. Well, she's getting zombified. It's like, do you smell? It smells like burnt hairspray or something.
There was definitely some smoke. Anyways, anything else, gentlemen, before we roll into some penultimate fun facts?
The only thing I was going to mention is it'll be interesting to see how they unzombify people, because there's no way that this series ends with Linda Page being a zombie.
And her uncle. Her uncle's been zombified since like episode 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
Sure,
There's no way. They got to find a way to unzombify.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I just had two things. One was, Jason mentioned it earlier on, is that how cool was it that Alfred got in the fight?
With the chain.
I had to go rewind and go, was that Alfred?
I did the same thing. I was like, wait, was that?
I'm like, go Alfred. No, Alfred, because he got knocked.
But there was my bit right there. I was like, that's my bit.
That was fun and cool. But I just want to go over some Batman fights. So let me know if I got any wrong or if anything is missing. We'll start off with number 1. Batman fights a dead end. Batman fights the trap with spikes. Batman fights the goons in the park. Batman fights the back of a gun handle. And then Batman fights a wooden box.
And potentially some gators.
Yeah.
I do want to give a shout out to the thug that used the usually Roger Moore Heroes move of jumping up and grabbing the limb and throwing the kick. Yeah. I was like, all right, bad guys know that trick too.
Yeah.
Roger Moore butt kick of doom.
Roger Moore action.
So when Roger Moore was about 24, 25, he saw this and said, I'm going to use this in a Bond movie.
I get it, because Roger Moore was old.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, with that, let's get into some fun facts. And on this penultimate episode where we're covering Batman 1943 serial, it's time to look at Lewis Wilson himself. And we've covered a little bit about Lewis Wilson before, but I want to get a little bit more detail on Lewis Wilson, the guy who played Batman. He was born in 1920 in Massachusetts. You could definitely hear the Massachusetts in the way he talks, by the way. I've picked up on that. And check this out. We haven't played this game, and I don't know if any of you guys have looked, but would anybody like to guess at how old he was when he was playing Batman as we see him here?
I thought you said this once before. Wasn't he really, really young, like 22?
Pretty young. Okay, so I have covered this before. He was 23 years old when he was playing Batman as we see him right now.
Dang.
He looks like he's about 30 to me, but yeah, he's 20.
Yeah.
How old's Robin?
We'll let you know next episode.
Now I really want to know.
I know. He's just 23. All right. After Batman, he did 10 films, the last of which was in 1954 when he decided to retire from acting. And he went on to have a successful career working for Whole Foods in California. And I always like stories like that where people are like, yeah, I had a good run. I'm going to start a whole other career. Worked for Whole Foods, did just fine. He married once to Dana Natal, and she was an actress and novelist. And of course, as we've covered before, they had one child, which was Michael G. Wilson, who is now the lead producer. Him and his stepsister, Barbara, are the lead producers of the James Bond series. So Michael G. Wilson, always be envious of his life. Oh, my stepdad, he runs the James Bond franchise. Oh, my real dad? Oh, he's Batman. That's pretty sweet.
And he brings me produce.
Yeah, from the Whole Foods. And then Lewis Wilson ended up living a pretty good life. He died at the age of 80 in the year 2000. So the dude was around for a while. Again, I like those kind of stories where someone was successful and played this big role and they just kind of chose to live this alternate life, just a Whole Foods manager.
It's just kind of like him walking off into the sunset and just...
Yeah, and living to a nice older age. Not too shabby.
And I can definitely imagine him too, like on stressful days or whatever. Just kind of mutters to himself, "I'm Batman." That's a pretty cool thing, and he was. He really was. Batman.
He was. If you think about it, he lived until 2000. So I guess the last film he would have seen would have been the George Clooney in '97.
I would have ended it then too.
And that's when he took it serious downhill. No, y'all stop being mean to George Clooney. He doesn't deserve your hatred. But anyways, that's I wanted to take just a sort of a revisit on Lewis Wilson and give you a little more details on him as we wind it up. So yeah, 23 years old. Definitely has got the Massachusetts accent. And then, like I said, just works for about 10 more years in film and calls it quits. So that is our guy. And with that, we are going to get into Batarang ratings. As it works here, if you give it 5 Batarangs, that means you loved it. 4 means you thought it was very good. 3, it was good. 2, it was just okay. And 1, I did not like it. We'll start with Jason.
I was afraid you were going to start with me. I'm going to give it a 4. I know that I poo-pooed on it because of the Batman getting one punch chumped there at the moment, but you bring up a good point. So I'm going to leave it open for the fact that there might be some shenanigans going on, and maybe Batman's pulling a fastie on old Jason here, on old Weasel Skull. So if that's the case, I'm going to like this one a lot. Besides that point, I like the escape from the trap. I like DACA. I like the cliffhanger. I like the cliffhanger of Linda being zombified. There's a lot to like to set up for this final battle, and I'm anxious to see it. So 4 from me.
I'm going to agree with you. I'll just jump in now, so I'm going to give it a 4 as well. For the same reasons that you mentioned. This one we keep comparing it to Flash Gordon. And this one kind of felt like, to me, like this was a good comparison. I felt like there was a lot going on. It really makes me want to see the next one, which has been the struggle for some of these Batman. So I agree with you, Jason. I'm going to join you on with the 4. Pat, you going to join us with the 4, a little high, a little low? What do you think?
You guys bring up some valid, good points. So I was originally going into this with a 3, just because it was like, that's all right.
That's fair.
It wasn't bad, but Jason talking what he said and just, I think, discussing this a little bit more with you guys, I think I am looking at a 4 right now, because I am anxious to see how this plays out. Was it a big all setup that's happening? I want to know who's in the box.
I think it's either going to be a 5 or a 1 from me.
Yeah, I know. Like we're heading towards something. You know, but,
not a lot of middle ground here.
yeah.
So you guys have helped raise it up to a 4 for me.
Okay, that's cool. You know, and yeah, the one thought I had at this one's wrapped up. I was like, there's so much that needs to be addressed, and we have one episode left. So this last one's going to have a lot going on. At least I hope it does.
Doesn't Daka still got his ray gun too? The second one?
Maybe. Yeah, the one that was like 12% larger.
Yeah. I wonder if he's going to pull that out.
Good question. I don't know, but we got to get Delvin's rating. So, Delvin, are you feeling chipper and high like with us at a 4, or are you going to be the realistic maybe 3 guy?
I'm going to be the realistic maybe 3 guy. Because
we're not opening the door. Don't open the door.
No,
close.
The 3/4 of you can.
It doesn't give in to peer pressure.
Yeah, a lot of times I will. In this case, I was like, am I really influenced enough to give it a 4? No, I didn't think it was bad though. I just like that part of me. There are some pretty decent cliffhangers. I will retroactively get on the floor, open the door, get on the floor with y'all. If the next episode that it turns out that it was a ruse and he wasn't really knocked out, I'll be like, crafty, clever Batman. I appreciate it. And so I will reserve that. So, put an asterisk here, put a pin in it, mark it down, yellow highlighter perhaps. And for now, 3, but possibly we can go up to 4 later.
That seems fair enough. And with that, we are going to get into the Gotham City mailbag. And of course, we're thrilled to kick off these comments with special shout outs to Crusaders Club members. These are fine folks that have joined the Crusade. They enjoy early access to special Longbox episodes, like, watching live recordings. This is, you don't get to listen to it edited, so there's a downside, but you get all the access. You get all the access. You get to vote on show content, which you'll be doing soon because we're going to need a new serial to watch soon. So keep an eye on that, you Patreon members. You get the free raffle entries, so much more. So these are the folks reaping the benefits and giving some much appreciated support to the show.
And Helica Wolf.
Auburn Elvis.
Bill Beer.
Blast it or stash it.
Braxton Underwood.
Captain Entropy.
Clinton Robeson.
Dave Collins, Battle Wagon.
Ezra Gallo.
Gerald Green.
Jason Lady.
Jason Keene.
Jeremy L.
Jim Jarman. I hope you like Jim Jarman too.
Jim Meal.
Joe Thomas.
John Watson.
Josh Strickland.
Candace Ward.
Captivating Kathy Bright, the MVP, who's in the chat right now and says, and I quote, totally worth my $1.
I like it. Mark Ross.
Matt and Lizzie Passo.
Maxwell Traver.
Michael Wagner.
Miranda W.
P.D. Devons.
Paul Hicks.
Rick from Jeff and Rick Present.
Rob Morgan.
Samantha Meany.
Sean Urbanski.
Spidey 67.
Steve Cronin.
Spreadsheet.
Tim Price.
Tony Pennington.
And Toronto Cop.
Of course, if we miss anyone on the list, we apologize. Keep in mind we record these episodes well in advance of release. So if you're a recent edition, we'll be adding you soon. But no worries. You can let us know that we missed you by sending a hate-filled email to contact@longboxcrusade.com, and Pat will get it straightened out. So you might be asking yourself, how do I become a Crusaders Club member? Simple. Patreon.com/Longbox Crusade. For as little as $1 a month, you will get all the access to the amazing world of the Crusaders Club. Special shout out once again to Jim Meal and to captivating Kathy Bright, who joined us for this first of many live Wednesday nights just for club members. So thanks for coming out to the inaugural. Tell your friends how much fun it was, and maybe we'll see some more folks around here. Now, if you don't have any extra scratch laying around, but you want to help us out here at LBC headquarters, you could maybe write a review for the show or wherever you're listening to it. Or we are definitely trying to build our YouTube audience. We have a little bit of additional content over there. We release some of these things, these podcasts over there as well with some additional stuff. So maybe check out Longbox Crusade on YouTube. And let's talk about people who shared and retweeted our last episode when it came out. As of this recording, the last one that came out was Chapter 12, which was Embers of Evil. And these are the folks who helped spread the word.
Tim Price.
Doc Strange.
Alan J. Porter, some call him Tex.
And Prairie Justice, the Greg Sanders Vigilante podcast. Again, if you want to get your name read in that little segment, all you got to do is when you see the social medias, whether you're on Facebook or Twitter or whatever, just give it a retweet or a share, and that's how you get your name in there. And we had but one comment, and I'll give it to Jason to read.
This was from our good friend and fellow podcaster, Alan J. Porter. And he said, and I'll get my British accent on here so that we can, so it's like he's in the room with us.
Right. Spot on.
Oi, this was a fun conversation about the first live action Batman and the evil that was Mr. Potato Head.
Perfect.
I was on the script. Was that Alan? Was Alan?
Yeah, I think he's in in the StreamYard with us.
You're welcome, Alan. You're welcome.
So bad. I can't wait to see what Alan has to say about that. Oh man. I mean, Kathy said it in the chat. Your dollar is buying you access to this kind of excellent content.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
All the access right there.
All the access. And you know what? You're more than welcome to make comments that we would love to play on the show. And you could do that by leaving us a voicemail. And some people have said, hey, well, I'm afraid I'm going to mess up the voicemail or whatever. Secret behind the scene, folks, we edit the voicemails we get. So we're going to make you sound good. Or if you leave a voicemail, you're like, oh, I wish I'd said it a second way. Leave a second one. We'll pick the best one that you leave, and we'll make it sound good. So anyway, how do you do that? 707-532-5269. That's 707-532-LBOX.
Pick up the phone. Well, that's it for this episode of Saturday Matinee Theater. If you'd like to hear more from us in the realm of comic books, action films, and more, check out the Longbox Crusade. Pat, where can they find that?
Well, Jason, I am glad you asked. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon Audible, pretty much all the podcatchers that are out there. You have a podcatcher, just search for Longbox Crusade and you'll find us. And on the YouTube, we're also at www.longboxcrusade.com. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Just look up Longbox Crusade and find us there. And if you are listening and want to get in on all the access, make sure you share this. Club members, make sure that you're sharing this with your friends out there with the hashtag LBC All Access. That's right. It's LBC All Access. That means you're going to get all the access for $1. Share it with your friends that you were just getting some fun with us with getting all the access. Back to you, Jason.
Thank you. You heard it. $1 make you holler. If you want to hear us on our trek through all the James Bond stuff, check out On Her Majesty's Secret Podcast. Jared, where can they find that?
I'm going to have Chris come back in and do it. He likes to do this part. Come on, Chris. Oh, the James Bond stuff. Yeah, I was Max Zorin. Apple Podcasts and Podbean and the podcatchers out there. Go to www.secretpodcast.podbean.com. Check them out at Twitter at OHMS Pod. Guys, I got to get back. I bought a ranch over the week. I got a whole ranch, and I got a bunch of cows. And I like being
I happiest in the cattle, Chris. Is that where you're gonna go?
Oh, you're back on the list, Williams. Just when you were off it, you're back on again. That's what you get for being a wise. All right, well, that's it for Chris and his beef with Delvin. His beef with Delvin.
Cattle. Oh, I get it now. I get it.
Oh, man.
Oh
my goodness. All right, let me steer us back on course. If you'd like to you got it. If you'd like to chat with us online, we can be found at Pat, go ahead and kick us off.
Well, Jason, I'm glad you asked. You can find me on the Twitter at Christatos01.
You can find me on Twitter, hiding from Chris, at DE_RAY1977. He already knows about my Instagram, which is Delvin Ray.
Jared.
I am at Yard Sale Artist, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all at Yard Sale Artist. You can check out my artwares at www.theyardsaleartist.com. What about you, Jason?
You can find me at Jason Albrick on Instagram. Well, it's time to put away your bat belts and get your quiver filled with arrows. Get ready to fight against taxation, because our next episode will continue our journey through the 1955 adventures of Robin Hood television series. We'll see you next episode for episode 6, A Guest for the Gallows. The meetup location? Sherwood Forest.
Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
Outtakes.
Kathy, I have heard the Dave Grohl impression of Walken, and it is outstanding.
Foo Fighters.
It is outstanding.
I see you guys putting that word in there and not saying that word. You can't dupe me. I'm not getting duped.
Delvin saved you.
They're battling it out here in the script. I'm watching it go back.
I saw it, I was like, no.
Good thing you erased that, although that would have been a good gregarious mistake there.
Oh.
Repetitiveness, it pays off. Anyway.